advisor for Southwark, but part of our work is also looking at a digital strategy for schools, and we've been working with LGFL on this. So we're sort of hosting it today. So any questions, you'll get contact details, but you can always contact me about any follow-up of this. So lovely to have you all here. I know it's a busy time of year, but we really appreciate you joining us. So I want to introduce then, first of all, Chris, and then Cassie, who's going to be delivering the inset on this morning. Chris,
thanks very much, Cara. Hi guys, really lovely to be here this morning, and I appreciate your time and attention today. My name's Chris Baird. I am the regional lead for London at the Edtech Demonstrator programme. I'm going to take you through a really quick presentation just so you understand a bit more about what the Edtech Demonstrator programme is all about, and if you haven't already found out a little bit about it. And kudos to Carl, because I think that's an amazing outfit. Particularly on a Friday morning. So yeah, well done. I think the next time I do one of these presentations, I'm definitely going to dress up. Okay. So yeah, bear with me just a moment while I share my screen. If I can ask you, if you can you see, can I just get a little nod from you to see that I get the presentation? Great stuff. Okay. So as I said, I'm Chris, I'm the regional lead. The Demonstrators programme has been set up basically as a response to the madness over the last few months, right? And essentially it's a mentoring programme and a training programme that provides schools and SLT and teachers with coaching, training and guidance and bespoke mentoring from a network of schools and colleges from around England, all around, different abilities and tools to deliver online and hybrid learning methods. So this was a program that was set up by and initiated by the Department for Education and is being delivered by LGFL in partnership with Sheffield Hallam University and the Education Foundation. And as I said, a network of schools and colleges from around England, of which my colleague Cassie Williams from Shacklewell Primary is one of the demonstrators. So you're going to be hearing from Cassie, who's going to lead or drive the majority of this session today. But essentially this program is free for any school, state supported or multi-academy trust to get involved with. The only cost to you is time, as in, you have to provide a bit of time to receive the training. But there's no cost in terms of a payment to LGFL or to Southwark or to anybody to participate in the program. Now, essentially what you're getting is, as I said, training, advice and guidance on supporting your objectives around how you go about using technology for teaching and learning, or improving the sort of infrastructure in terms of your use of tech within the school. You might have come across programs like the platform provisioning program, the adoption of cloud platforms, which is like, if you haven't already got Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom being used in your school, there's been a small grant that you could get from government to get you set up with that. Now, I believe that grant offers a couple of hours worth of training for staff, but obviously that's just but a drop in the ocean. So what next? Well, this is where the Demonstrators program really sort of comes into its own and supports you guys, because you're able to take advantage of about half a term's worth of training and one-to-one bespoke support. And essentially this support, it can cover really anything. It could be anything from how do you use this tool to deliver this particular approach for teaching and learning? What button do I need to push to get it to do this? Right through to, helping SLT to define what the digital strategy for the short term and long term within the school is, and everything that encompasses, better communication practices between teachers and families, support to define, the policies for sending devices home, and good procurement practices. How do we use tech to deliver effective SEND and pastoral provision? Literally any questions that you have and objectives within your school, the demonstrators and the demonstrator program is here to sort of address those needs. So, we're working quite closely with local authorities such as Southwark to really be able to develop these area-wide offers. And this is the sort of starting point. This is the beginning of some of that area-wide support. And then, once you're signed up with the program, you actually get then one-to-one support. You get allocated with a demonstrator, and then they provide you more of a one-to-one pathway as well, rather than just working in your groups like you are here today. So the demonstrators are a network of schools. They're essentially centres of best practice. They were at very early stages in terms of their Edtech journeys just not too long ago. So, one thing I would sort of encourage you not to be is feel like, oh, this isn't for you because you're at such a different stage in your journey using tech. All of the schools that are the demonstrators, they were at very similar stages as to where probably quite a few of your schools are at today, just not too long ago. And actually, Cassie, the session today, and Cassie will take you through part of Shacklewell's journey, really. But the point is that they're experts in being able to help you to understand how to get the most out of the tech, whatever that tech is, whether it's Google Classroom, whether it's Microsoft Teams, whether it's Office 365 or Seesaw or Shobi, any of these sorts of tools, depending on what tools you're intending to use, we have a demonstrator or demonstrators that are able to sort of help you with that and overcome any of those sorts of questions that you have. It's a really super simple sign up process. So currently, the process is that you go onto our website, you request support, you fill out a very quick form that just asks for some basic contact details, and what are your objectives and for support, what do you need help with, what tools do you already use, and then typically that expression of interest will come through to me, and then I'll assign you a demonstrator to provide you support, and then you're up and running. You'll then be contacted by the demonstrator, and then you can participate in one-to-one training, one-to-many training, and sometimes, and by one-to-many I mean a faculty across your school, and then in other instances it's one-to-many schools. Like in this training session today, there's a number of you from different schools that are on the call, and then the demonstrators will provide you support and training to many schools. We've got a whole wealth of content that's kind of on our website, and it's on everything from all different stages of your EdTech journey, for content that's positioned and purposed for those at the very early stages, right through to those that are a bit more mature with their use of technology. We're hopefully here to sort of support all needs. As I said earlier, we're trying to develop actually some bespoke programming for Southwark and Southwark schools in particular. And actually over the course of the next few days or in going into the start of next term, you'll hear more about this. And again, there'll be another offer for you to take advantage of, very similar to what we're talking about today, but just very much tailored towards Southwark schools. As I sort of mentioned, we're working with local authorities, and essentially we're here to sort of augment and enhance the offer that Southwark's offering you. We're working in partnership on sort of co-op events, as I said, a bespoke training program for your schools. This is an example of us working with Enfield not too long ago, and we're working with quite a few of the London boroughs now and other local authorities around the country. And hopefully it's as simple as that and straightforward as that. We're going to be developing this course in partnership with Southwark, but in the meantime, you're more than welcome to sign up. I believe we've got colleagues from Notre Dame here today. So Notre Dame are one of the schools that has signed up to the program already and has been allocated a demonstrator school. I believe that you guys are working or beginning to work with Reading Court, and I think that they've been in touch with you. And yeah, I'm happy to have a quick chat with you about that after this as well, if you've got any questions. As I said, I'd sort of encourage you to go to our website because we've got a whole load of content on there, and it's everything from sort of short form, very quick 5-minute videos through to sort of more longer form conversations. So bite-sized chunks of learning through to sort of discussions and conversations about the philosophy of why we should be going digital, or how to get the most out of the technology. But essentially content to cater to all sort of time lengths and needs. That's about it. That's my contact details there. As I said, I'm working closely with Cara, Cherie and the team. So hopefully you'll hear from me quite a bit more over the coming weeks and months. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Cassie Williams, Deputy Head at Shacklewell Primary, and she will be taking you for the rest of the session. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and I'll hand over to Cassie.
Hi everyone, it's good to virtually meet you all. I am also in a Christmas jumper today because I'm at school and mine's got bells on, so I keep making ringing noises. So I'm really sorry if I'm distracting in any way. I'm just going to share my screen, and my plan is to kind of talk you through our journey, who we are, what we've been doing, and then show you what we've done since lockdown, and then possibly take any questions if there's time at the end as well. I'll just wait for it to connect. Great. All right, so my name is Cassie. I'm a deputy head at Shacklewell Primary School. Shacklewell is a primary school that's part of a federation. So we are in work in partnership with Graysbrook Primary School and Woodbury Down Primary School as well. We are in the local authority of Hackney, and our schools are in about a 2-mile radius from one another. But Hackney is a borough that's kind of known for its diversity and community, as well as its sort of opposing gentrification and poverty. And our schools really kind of reflect the makeup of Hackney. So you've got Graysbrook, Shacklewell and Woodbury Down, all sort of larger than average schools with varying levels of deprivation. Woodbury Down having the highest need, Graysbrook's in sort of leafy Stoke Newington, so it doesn't have such a high need. But what we really firmly believe in each of our schools is that we want to give everyone the success that they deserve, and want them to kind of feel that they all can achieve, regardless of their starting points or regardless of where it is within Hackney that they come from. So our vision is excellence for all. And we really aim to open possibilities to our students so that they change their mindsets. That helps them to kind of change their future paths. But to do this, we prioritise teacher excellence, because we want our teachers to foster this within the students that they teach. And I'm going to talk to you today about how we've used technology for a number of years now to really meet this aim of ours of excellence for all, and how we use it to develop those learning behaviours that we want for our children, and how we then had to adapt what we were doing with this in order to be successful when schools partially closed back last academic year. So when lockdown began and school was closed to most children, we were actually fortunate in that our children already used virtual classroom, and our teachers were kind of quite well versed in video calls and collaboration online. And that's because we've had iPads in our classroom since 2012. We hold something called Apple Distinguished School status, which means that we're recognised as innovative schools with using Apple products, and that we use them in innovative ways for the purpose of teaching and learning. We're also a regional training centre as well for Apple, so we support teachers originally in our local area, but now as we do it virtually beyond our local area, in how they use the Apple products that so many people have in their schools anyway, to support with using Apple technology effectively in teaching and learning. And so in about 2016, we increased our supply of iPads in our schools and went one-to-one in our upper key stages. We found that this was incredibly useful for our learners, particularly when we're thinking about those ones that don't have the same starting points as everybody else. Having a device to themselves, something to be responsible for, and having varied outputs in how they present their learning and how they manage their time was really, really kind of effective for us. And then our acceptance onto the Edtech Demonstrator program is really due to our commitment to learning and teaching with digital technology. So we are really passionate about it being a lasting program, something like the Edtech demonstrator program, schools really kind of seeing that there's room for remote learning and learning with technology within the classrooms, and that while so many schools had to put a bolt on when we had our first school closure, there is legacy in it, and we should try to kind of strive to incorporate it into teaching and learning because of the effects it can have. Now, bearing in mind we have all these things, and we you know, our accolades and our understanding of it kind of suggests that we are experts at how we do it. Actually, our initial remote learning offer was far more conservative than our teacher skill set and our pupils' capabilities, because our output had to match what our communities could access at the time. When I think back to when schools were shut in March, that actually families were in such a different position to what they are now. And if we're sending home devices to children that don't have the bandwidth at home and their Wi-Fi capabilities, some of them don't even have a table to sit and work on. If their parents are working from home, you know, that's the kitchen table gone, then they're sat on their bed trying to access learning. And we had such a breadth in what our families wanted. We definitely had a divide between our disadvantaged families and our non-disadvantaged families, but we also had lots of families that we would consider to be, you know, affluent families who had no devices at home because they had rules in their house about the number of devices they have. And also, if you're a family with, you know, 4 children at home, who says you've got 4 iPads, 1 each for each child, and a laptop for you and then 1 for your partner? So there was such discrepancies in what we could offer and what those families could access. So what we did is we built upon this throughout lockdown, and we started small and then we added elements as the weeks went on. And now so many schools haven't been afforded the luxury of implementing change in stages with that trials and testing. But by kind of really taking an incremental approach to what we were doing, it became far easier to manage. And so I also know that for the closure of schools for most children, it led to many having to make really quick decisions on how to deploy technology to respond to the lockdown. And it is since returning to school that all the children and the schools ourselves included have reflected, kind of reviewed and looked at planning strategies to continue with a more successful remote learning offer. So the things that we did is we have children in our school from 2 years old right through to year 6s. So we're so lucky that we're, as a staff team, able to work on collaborative documents so that our staff could be at home, have access to documents on their iPad or through their own laptops to be able to collaborate on what they created. We then really looked at recorded content over live lessons because we just knew that there was that breadth in access, and the amount of effort it would take us to deliver a live lesson, and the number of children that actually couldn't engage with it. To us, it wasn't the best use of our time. What we knew was the most important thing was that communication with our school, with our children. And that communication started as phone calls. Then it became, once we were kind of in regular contact with the families, we could start to then look at video calls with small groups of children. We use Google Classroom and a G Suite for Education. So our children in year 3 to year 6 were able to access things through Google Classroom. Now, of course, for some children, that's fine. They know how to log in. They know how to view the learning that their teachers are giving them. But for others, whilst they may be able to do that, they might not have a device at home. So we were really conscious of that and really aware that the kind of most universal format for our learners in those situations was just PDFs. So PDFs of home learning booklets, and any recorded content we did was just like short, less than 5-minute videos that would help the families at home to access the learning. Now, that was kind of our offer for sort of year 3 to year 6. Our children in the early years, I'm sure many of you know that in the early years, children the families quite often have an app that they use, like the ILD, or I can't think of any others right now, but anyway, there's apps for the early learning for the early years. So families were already used to using them, so we continued to use those. And then for year 1 and year 2, we hosted everything on a website, a home learning website for them. We wanted it to be as simple as possible. Our children in year 3 and year 6 already use Google Classroom in the school. So the simplest thing for them was to continue to use it, but then to use it at home. Our children in year 1 and year 2, we knew that actually it was going to be their families that were helping them at home. So we knew that for them, the best thing for them to do was just to have a couple of clicks on that worked on a phone or on a device, so that they could access the learning. And then we stuck with what we had for the early years. But so many families weren't happy with our offer originally, and they're either it was too much, we were giving them too much, they wanted to print it out, they wanted to see more of their teachers, they wanted live lessons, and we took that feedback, we listened to our families, and we made some changes when we returned in September. So we decided to increase the capacity. We increased our devices, and so now we have 1-to-1 in our year 4 classes as well. And then the devices we've received from the government, we are using as devices to send home to. Now we send home nearly 200 devices home to children every week. And we've delivered webinars to engage our families and prepared content that we deliver online. So we really thought about kind of what they'd asked for. And we knew that we'd be in the same situation again if we didn't do anything to prepare our children on a weekly basis. And we've had bubble closures across our federation. So we made the decision to send devices home every weekend. And by sending devices home every weekend, children can start to practice using devices at home. When those devices were being sent home, they were being sent home with like little recorded videos that our staff had created. So our staff are getting used to creating 5-minute learning videos that our children are getting used to viewing. And then that kind of process of learning, when it comes to a bubble closure, everyone's practiced in those settings and are ready for it. For our younger children in early years and in Key Stage 1, that practice was sort of links sent out to families, to the website, and to videos that they could watch online, just to get that kind of workflow between home and school there and in place. Because what we knew is that when there's the bubble closures, it's our most reluctant and disengaged learners that don't engage, and they're the ones that we really wanted to reach. By delivering webinars to families, we were able to do this too. And we actually found that the number of parents that engaged in webinars was far greater than anyone that ever did for our coffee mornings that we used to host. And, you know, you'd be bribing your parents to come in with some coffee and a slice of cake, and maybe you'd only get 5 to 10 of them coming in to listen to you talking about online safety or Google Classroom or whatever. But we would just send a link out on our text messaging service in the morning, Google Classroom webinar starting in 5 minutes, here's the link to join. And then so many of them are like, oh, I'll just click this now, oh, I'm on the webinar, and then they have to stay. So we found that actually using our the skill set our staff have to share these webinars with our families really helped engage them in the process of remote learning. But again, this was also so incremental in what we did, and there were so many lessons learned, and kind of listening to our parents and trying to get our parents to see why we aren't going to deliver an hour maths lesson to 5-year-olds, and why we have to take into consideration what everybody wants, and the work-life balance of our teaching staff, and the well-being of the people that are still in school as well. Of course, when we have bubble closures, sometimes it's the staff that have are the cause of it, and they can be quite ill with the virus. So having prepared content that's ready to go means you can still have that connection with your classes too. So in September, we made our remote learning policy, and we had contingency plannings, and we have what we call day 0. So every year group made a home learning pack that can be printed out on day 0 to go home with the children, or to be emailed out depending on when the bubble closure or the school closure takes place. And on that are recorded videos from the teachers, and the teachers just speaking to the camera saying, you know, sorry that we're all learning at home at the moment. We'll be in touch in the week. I hope you enjoy the learning that you have on offer today. And so for then those children, they still get to see their teacher, even if it is their teacher that has, you know, is currently bedbound and not very well. So that prepared content helps to kind of helps us to quality assure that whatever the children are doing on that first day helps the families to feel that connection, and is universal across each year group. So we have that consistency, and it buys you a bit of time to set up something ready to go for the rest of the time that there's a closure. And I think the work we've done in trying to make sure that our families know that we want to be uniform in our approach. We don't want to give them too much. We want to balance the needs of everybody and the expectations that the government have put on us to provide at least 3 hours a day to measure progress whilst that's taking place, or to do it for children that are self-isolating when the rest of the children are in school. You know, there's constraints on us, and there's the well-being of teachers to consider as well. But by increasing the capacity, engaging our community, and being prepared through that incremental steps to it, we have had success. And I know this is quite a long quote, but one of our parents emailed us to say that the new online learning worked brilliantly for them, that they liked the recorded lessons, that the timetable we'd given them meant they could follow in line with it, but that the video calls that they had as well also helped to put it all together. So we finally managed to get that balance that all the families were looking for, that isn't too onerous on our teachers, whether they're self-isolating, working from school, or needing that break in between. And even at this point, the skill set that our teachers are using are not, you know, our teachers could deliver live lessons if they wanted. They could create an endless amount of content for them because they have the skill set to do so, but they don't need to. We know that that we have a balance that at the moment is successful, and of course there are some teachers that and families that would disagree, but that actually using all the resources that we have on offer, and things like BBC Bite Size, the Oak Academy, you know, videos on YouTube, our reading programs that we use, we have all these things on offer that can help us, and our teachers are all really clear on the expectations that we've set for them, so that they can all manage our remote learning offer. And then our offer as a Edtech demonstrator can be a number of things. It can be support training staff on how to make the best recorded content. It can be action planning to create a remote learning strategy, or to decide on your next steps based on the strategy you already have. We can deliver whole staff inset. We can deliver kind of Q&A sessions. We focus on online safety as well, with an increase in the use of devices and the increase in the use of children using devices whilst parents are also working at the same time. So kind of away from their parents, you know, requires a closer look at online safety. So we can offer support on online safety as well. And then, you know, our specialism is how to use iPad within the classroom and beyond the classroom, but also using G Suite for education as well. So if anyone is interested in that sort of bespoke platform-based support, we're able to offer that too. So I hope you can see from that, you know, we're always learning and always looking to improve our offer, but that actually the lessons we've learned have helped us to be able to provide that advice to schools that are at various starting points, because we tried all those different things, and based on our staff feedback, our family feedback, and our decisions on our approach, we found something that's successful. So really can advise on ways you want to go based on your community and your staff, and we can also really help train your staff to deliver the offer that you want to deliver as well. So thank you very much for listening. I'll pause there, so if anyone does have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any now. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie.
Okay, stop sharing.
I've got some questions where people get a chance to catch their thoughts. Cassie, first of all, thank you so much. That was really helpful. I think, you know, those points around that sort of reflective sort of journey about how you know, really amended your offer to suit the needs of the pupils and the parents was really key. The question I have is around, did you send iPads home or laptops?
Both, it depends. So in year 4, 5 and 6, so we've had a closure in year 4 and they all just went home with their iPads. And we were actually really lucky because we'd got a text message at 2 o'clock to say that a child has tested positive. And so the children don't normally take the iPads home on a Thursday, but because they take them home for the weekend. So we went downstairs, gave them all a charger and their iPad, told them that they had a special project to do that night, and then off they went with their iPads and their chargers. But other year groups, the younger year groups, it's been Chromebooks mostly, because we have 30 Chromebooks, and they're just cheaper and they're older stock for us. But now that we've got the devices from the government that are iPads, we're using those to go home as well.
Thank you.
I see someone's asked what was in the day 0 pack. I think I can just get one open because I know year 3 had to use one the other day. I think as well, like we can kind of talk about it a lot because we're a federation. So you know, please don't think that we're just like a COVID hotspot. It's more that being kind of a federation of 3 schools means that you know, we've experienced it in a number of ways. I'll just find the learning pack now. So the day 0 learning pack has just like some maths, some English, and here it is, like something curriculum based. But they made these in here's my desktop share. The teachers made these back in September. So since having a closure, so when year 2 came back, they had to make a day 0 pack again. But you can see that, so it has the videos from the teachers, and because it's either sent as a PDF, so those are clickable links, or it's printed out, so there's the QR code for it. And then they've got, and actually for this pack, it was printed out because they were in school. So it's just got a couple of pages of maths with pages for them to work on, reading activity, some writing, and then something curriculum based. So this is kind of, and it's all recall, so it's something they have already completed in their classes before, in order for, it just gives the teachers some space basically to have a day where they can set everything up that needs to be set up. So that is a day's worth of learning, and their QR codes or any of the clickable links allow the families to do a bit more if they think that this isn't enough. But yeah, having those videos on there as well just kind of means that you don't have to have sort of families whispering about who's got COVID and who isn't, because they can see both their teachers there. So that helps with that as well. Yeah, and they don't take that long to make. That they, you know, we actually gave it to our middle leaders to do, so our phase leaders to do when they first came back in September, and then when they come back, they have to just make another one. But then the rest of the home learning that we would do for someone that was self-isolating or for a bubble closure is in line with what they were teaching, would have been teaching at the time, so that, to avoid that gap.
Can I ask, is it, I don't know, Zoom etiquette, am I supposed to write down a question or can I just ask in my outfit? No, it's just, I just wanted to, this fantastic. I'm nodding away thinking, oh my gosh, we did well here, because it's the same thing as what you're doing, to a point. We didn't do all the things before since 2012. So I've been here since 2018. My question is though, is there insurance for the devices? how did you get the families involved in terms of taking it home? Because to me, that would be, I did that in my previous school way before, but I know that was a big thing where the borough in Newham was involved and so on. But in terms of now, I'll be thinking, oh, if they broke it, because we sent out 10 and 2 of them are broken. And I realized, oh my gosh, there should be some kind of something that they sign or so on. But those ones were for them. I've got a batch here that I know I'm going to loan out to them, to the children, but I don't know where I will get paperwork or agreement or something. And shifting culture, I meant for them to look after them, just because it's not theirs, treat it like when they're in school where they look after our property here. So I just want to know how your school or yourself went about that.
Sure. We have a parent and child iPad agreement that the child and the parent and the head teacher all signs, that just like states the expectations that we have. And when we first sent them home the first weekend, and it's like over 200 iPads go home, it was remarkable in how unremarkable it was, because the children are so used to using it for learning that they just put it in their bag and off they went. And then they actually all came back the next day, and not the next day, sorry, on Monday. But it came with some families saying, I don't want my child to take their iPad home. Actually, we've got some iPads at home that they can use, or we don't want them to use their devices at home. It came with webinars for the families to let them know, to explain what we would expect of them. And we have a couple of things like sort of up our sleeve if we need it. So LGFL provide London Grid for Learning provide like a browser that you can put on the iPad that's a complete safe search browser to stop children doing anything that might be inappropriate with their iPad. We also can, we spot check them all the time. So we look at their search history and things like that. We rarely give them anything that would require them to search on Safari to do, but equally, we know that we have enough filtering and safe searching that we can do ourselves with what we have on the devices and how they're managed. And then the LGFL browser version's free, but then also our devices are managed by a management service that can put tighter controls on them should we need to, if there was an incident. There hasn't been anything yet. And then all our devices are insured through our local authority.
When they take it home?
Yeah, so our local authority insurance covers them being taken home. They just have to be in a particular case.
Yeah, I remember we had to get a rucksack that looked like a rucksack, a child's bag, so it wasn't stolen.
Yeah, no, so ours is just like the case has to be sturdy. And unfortunately, the devices that were provided from the government come with just like little zippy sleeves.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, and they're not covered by our insurance. So we've had to buy device cases for them. But yeah, so we have that agreement, and we've had one child did leave theirs on the bus, and we haven't had that back yet. But we've locked it. So if anyone does try to do anything with it, they can't really. And our insurance covers as much as it covers, but I think we just have to be brave and try it. And our teachers are so good at ensuring they come back, at making sure they're sort of consequence, so that they're almost too afraid to forget, and celebrating the learning that's taking place at home, so that the children are motivated to use it to learn at home as well.
I'm so sorry I'm asking all these questions, but it's the same device that they use at school. I can hear jingling like you. I don't know if it's me or you that's jingling. But is it the same device they use at home that they take home? At school, that is. Oh yeah, so it'll be bad if you're trying to teach them at school and they've left it at home.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Sounds a bit like a library book. You know how we're so used to library books going home and then coming back again? It's almost like you've created a culture of the same sort of principles around that. Can I just ask, who spot checks your the security and who does that?
We do, like any one of us. So it would be by the leadership team, but also the class teachers. And we know the children that are in the class. And so I've got my device here, and you can just tell the kid that suddenly twisting around a little bit on their chair in the classroom has probably just taken a screenshot of someone and is about to do something inappropriate. And all it takes is taking that iPad off them for a day, and then if they do it again, you double it, and so on until they don't then have a device that you get that conformity from your class. And we treat our devices how we treat our exercise books. And so, you know, it's things like the children will try and change their screensaver on their device, and we would say, well, I don't let you like graffiti over your maths exercise book, so I'm not going to let you put a load of, you know, silly selfies on your iPad, because it's a tool for learning. So our teachers are really clear on those sort of things. And you're right, it is like a library book. I panic when we have new books and they go out home and some of them get damaged, some of them are forgotten, but so long as we track it and so long as we have systems and structures in place, we can manage those risks accordingly. And yeah, we're really clear. Our teachers know that we would check a device, that they would check a device too. But also it's that we want our parents to know that when the children have a device at home, it's not to have in their bedroom past 7 o'clock. You know, it should be stored somewhere. They should be working on it with you around them. But we also know that if a child is self-isolating and parents do still have to work, that there is a likelihood that they won't be there with them, but that we have to manage that risk. We have to teach the children how to not just be safe, but how to be responsible and respectful online as well. And regardless of a pandemic, those are things we should be teaching children to do online anyway. And what we found when most of the children returned in September, and when we had a few return in that summer term, there was lots of incidences in sort of year 5 and year 6 of children had basically just been on TikTok in their bedrooms, on their phones for months, and had been like in group chats with each other, and were just doing lots and lots of inappropriate things that needed to be addressed, and that the parents didn't really know, and were like, oh yeah, they're in their rooms dancing on their phone with their friends. Well, no, actually, that they're doing that publicly, and you don't realize that they're doing that. And through that kind of professional curiosity of asking the children, and through the training that we provide our staff to make sure that they do engage in those conversations with the children, we can then make sure that the parents know what the children are doing online, and that the children understand the implications of kind of being in your bedroom in your pajamas on film, or in your dressing gown on film, and how inappropriate that is. And if we can then teach them about those being safe, but also being responsible and respectful, we're setting them up for their next stage of their education, but also for their next stage in their social relationships as well. And these things aren't going anywhere. And we don't want them to, they can take over a child's life. Like, there are so many children that just would be on their phone all the time, or be on a device all the time. We don't want them to be like that. We want them to step away from it. And it's with that education that they can do that. And so by giving them one, we're helping them to use it less as well, in theory.
Has anyone else got any questions? I've got a couple more. I was just wondering, just being cheeky, you can say no, or you don't even have to answer it, about just getting copies of, or just having a look at your online learning policy and your agreement with home. I think that would be really helpful to, people are nodding. So I'm speaking for the people here, that would be really, really helpful in terms of a resource to look at.
Yeah, I can think through after, no problem.
Thank you. And the sort of second thing is, obviously, with regards to connectivity, you talked about obviously devices is one thing, but as a local authority, people accessing Wi-Fi. Have you looked into that and tackled that, or is that? Yeah,
we have, I don't think they're dongles, but they're kind of like, it's like a pay-as-you-go kind of Wi-Fi package, and we bought about 50 of them for our federation. And they come, I'll find out the company, but they come with like 6 gigabytes of data that then you can give to a family, and you have a year to use the 6 gigabytes. And then after that, you can like top it up, because we looked at some schemes where you can buy dongles, but they're like pay monthly contracts. But yeah, I'm happy to find out that as well, because we know certainly what we found when we were sending home devices in year groups is that we then found out who didn't have access to the internet at home. And so we still let them send their device home, but they just took, like, everything was kind of, if there was a video, it was put in their photo library, and then the apps that they use on their iPad, they can use without the internet at home. So they were still felt that kind of included in that. But then, yeah, we know of families in our community that don't have anything at home and have that option of either just having printed work or using our sort of prepaid. I think it's 4G or Wi-Fi. I'm not sure how it works, but we have it, and some of our families have been using it. So yeah.
And they then come back into school once children have come back, do they?
Exactly, yeah. And again, that is also just like having those systems and structures. So all stakeholders are aware of what our offer is. So it's our office staff know, who's signed out what Chromebook or what year group have got their iPads out, and who's borrowing what at that time. And all of our staff know the expectations in the different year groups as well, so they can all support each other with that too.
Has anyone else got any other questions?
I just had a comment to just make sure it's the same thing, Cassie, about the dongle thing, because is that the same as the Vodafone thing that's just come out, where schools can apply? Because I've applied to the Vodafone, and
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's probably similar. I'll ask my business manager, because one of our schools had to use it the other week. And I can't remember the name of what it is, but it could quite possibly be that.
Okay, because it's just free to all schools, a certain amount, depending on how many children, I guess, you get. And up to 50. And I didn't hear about it before.
I think the Vodafone is the SIM card, isn't it? Because we got 50 as well. So
yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Thanks.
Have those SIM cards got, how much data have they got on them, Teresa?
Actually, I can't remember how much it's got in it, but I think it's up to 2 or 3 gigabytes. I'm very sure. But I will get back to you, Cara, about that, if that's all right.
Yeah, no, that would be really helpful, just to get that out to schools if they haven't seen them, because sometimes we don't get that detail. So that's really helpful. Thank you. Does anybody need any questions about setting up Google Classroom or Google? Because I presume, Cassie, every child has got an account that you monitor, then you can monitor in terms of assessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have our IT technician that we have an IT technician like half a day each in our schools that manages the setup from Sims to give every child a Google username. But they're like, the email's turned off and everything. They just use it to log on to the apps that they use, like Google Classroom. But where we're G Suite as well, we use Gmail and Drive and everything too as staff. So yeah, but when you have Chris mentioned it earlier, I can't remember what it's called, but the government have the schemes where if you're like setting up those platforms, that they come with some training.
Yeah, and what I'll do is that after this, I'll send round. We've got a little company called Softdeck who are working, who are part of the DFE's approved provider with that, and they will help you if you haven't. Yeah, it is a platform provisioning program. Thanks, Chris. And if you haven't set it up linked to your Sims, so you might have a few accounts, but not that systematic approach of all accounts for children across the school, then there is funding and support to be able to help you do that. So I can pass those details on. If you're a school that hasn't set that up consistently across the school. I think in the original rollout, it was for schools that didn't have it at all, and then they changed the regs to say it's about all of the pupils in the school to be able to have that access. So if you haven't, I will send the link through and we'll get you in touch with that company who can support you. And because we use Wand, apparently it's really easy to be able to transfer it into your MIS system. So that's good news. Any other questions, details? Now's the time. So far, we've managed to extract a policy out of Cassie and some contracts. I don't suppose also there's a sense of with regards to the, example of your learning pack, do you have an example of that on your?
Yeah, I'll give you one of the like day zero examples. So happy to do that. Yeah.
That would be really, particularly because I think the lovely idea of those videos are that they're all pre-prepared. So there's some things you can do to try and, give yourself time to breathe whilst you're trying to make arrangements, I think is a really good suggestion.
Just also included on the chat the link to Shacklewell's page on the Edtech Demonstrators site, which has a couple of learning resources on there already, doesn't it, Cassie?
I think so. I think there's definitely more coming on there of what I've sent through. But also our school website as well has some of it too. And someone's asked about Moodle. I'm afraid I haven't used Moodle.
Yeah.
I can put you in touch with someone from Moodle with regards to that, because that's quite a lot of universities use Moodle. Carl, did you?
Yes, Cara, we do use Moodles. Emma Rutherford is from my school. Currently, the executive ed teacher is working with SODOC for us to be able to look at the Google Classroom as well with the IT coordinator, IT lead. So we're in the process of looking at Google Classroom as well, in line with Moodles as well.
Yeah, I think that would be easier in terms of managing that process. But I can give you some details on Moodle. Has anyone else got any experience of Moodle on this page? I used to use Moodle a lot when I worked at the university, so maybe, but that's from a sort of higher ed experience rather than a school-based one. So I think a lot of schools have either chosen Microsoft Office or Google Classroom as their sort of platforms for delivery. Anything else with regards to that?
I just had one thing. I wanted to just ask Cassie, in terms of, were all your teachers on board to do the videos? Or if not, how did you, are all of yours on board? Well, you're smiling like, oh, it must have been a bit difficult.
At first, well, we when we first did them back in like April, we made sure that as senior leaders we joined the course, and we had like clear expectations that it was like clear background, because lots of teachers were at home. And also what time will work for you to do these calls with your children, because within the home arrangements of our teachers, some of them have families, some of them are like flat shares, and it's like, if it is just their bedroom they can use, what's the best time for them to do it? And so we did that, and then we joined them, anyone that was kind of a bit worried about it. Then when September came, we actually across our federation have like 14 initial ITTs. So we have all these new teachers that we also need to suddenly get up to speed with what remote learning looks like as well. And we knew that we wanted to improve we knew we were going to have to continue our remote offer, so we wanted to improve it. So one of our, within our community, one of our parents is works in TV and film and is like an assistant producer or something like that. So he came and delivered some training for our staff on how to film a good piece to camera. And it was like a 30-minute training session, 2-meter distance, all COVID compliant. And it just gave the teachers the chance to practice. And then lots of them then used that training session to film their piece to camera. That was a welcome to day one of learning at home. Where they did it with their colleagues, it was like a safe space for them to do it. So yes, since then, and it comes with practice, because the first thing we asked them to do if they were worried was join a call where I would be on it. Then it was, practice with your year group partners. Now, when I say to them, be on a 30-minute call with 10 children to talk about their maths learning in like a mini lesson, they're fine to do it because they've had all those steps to doing it as well.
I've just shared on the chat as well, where it says steady, ready, go. There's a really great set of step-by-step resources that cover some of these sorts of challenges like, you know, how do you get teachers buy-in to produce the right resources? How do you, you know, what conditions you need to sort of set up in order to produce the right resources, this kind of stuff. So yeah, I appreciate that, you know, not every school has access to that sort of training from in the industry, but hopefully we've been able to curate quite a bit of resource. But also, you know, from the sessions that we're developing with Southwark going forward, these are all really good points and discussion areas to sort of to double down on. So I'm confident that, you know, over the coming weeks we're going to be able to tackle a lot of these, you know, more practical considerations, you know, head on.
I think, firstly, thank you so much, Cassie. I think one of the things I sort of picked up was that you really embed it in the school first. So anything going home is sort of an extension of that rather than something that's completely new. And that's almost why it works, isn't it? That you sort of get it working and set up, and the routines and systems in school that just then carry over to sort of that school, that home extension. You know, we really appreciate it. The resources are phenomenal. Thank you for sharing them. You know, that's really, really helpful for your time today. And I think hopefully we're going to be working with you a bit more closely around some of this going forward. And, you know, as Chris said, look out in January for some of the training around modelling online, some of the, you know, teaching, the pedagogy that you might be using with your teachers. So there'll be a suite of training materials to help support your teachers, Carl, who might be more reluctant or who need a bit more support and expertise. Hopefully we'll be able to offer some of that, you know, to be able to support them going further. Because I think even when COVID, you know, we get out of this, it won't go away. This online learning expectation is about what we are doing in the future, and it's about how you're set up to be able to sort of expand that offer. So thank you, Cassie, for kicking us off so brilliantly today and so articulately. We really appreciate your time, particularly towards the end of the school. And I love the Christmas jumpers. So the girls just added to it. So thank you, and thank you to all the schools for joining and the contributions, and you know, keep the questions coming, because I think, and sharing the practice, and I think sharing what we're also doing, that's our next steps as well in Southwark. You know, a chance to share our lessons would be really good. So thank you, and thanks, Chris, for organising. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Good Friday, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.